Hello everybody, this is Ray Kruse, your Food Systems Program Coordinator and Master Gardener Coordinator right here at the ISU Extension Outreach Office of Dubuque County. And today we're talking about bagged soil and common garden soil amendments that we can see at the garden center. And if you're like I was when I started gardening, you might be like, well, what are all these things and what do I really need to buy? Well, we're going to talk about that here today. But I will say these products can be a little bit variable, but there are some commonalities that we'll see among them and how we use them in the environment. First off, we're going to start here with potting mix. Now, potting mix is an optimal environment or an optimal material to be using in our containerized environments for flowering plants as well as vegetables. And why that is because this very coarse material here maintains a great rooting environment for our plants, not only early in the spring, but also later in the summer when our pot material starts to settle and things get warm out. This allows for our plants to continue growing their roots and continuing to thrive. Now, on the other hand here, we have seed starting mix. And it might look a lot like our potting mix, in which it is. The only difference is that this seed starting mix here is a finer texture. And it actually provides us an optimal environment for starting a really small seeded plant, such as petunias or celery. Over here, we could try using this potting mix for some of our larger seeded vegetables like tomatoes, but wouldn't really do very well for some of our really super small seeds. And that's what the seed starting mix is. But it does come at a premium. Now, these two mixes that we just talked about have some commonalities in what makes up the mix. And the first off that we have is the base, which is sphagnum peat moss. All it simply is just sphagnum peat moss taken off the bottom of a bog and then mixed in with this mix. And it provides aeration and water holding capacity for our plants in that potted environment. What we also have in our mix is perlite. Now, perlite might look like a bunch of pieces of styrofoam, but that's not actually what they are. They're little itty bitty pieces of mineralized rock that are really fluffy, and it provides a nice aeration component to our potting mix or seed starting mix. And an additional item that we commonly have in these mixes is humus and manure, which can also interchangeably be used with compost. And we can also purchase this material alone as a soil amendment for some of our general garden beds, flower beds or vegetable beds out on the landscape, and isn't just only used in potting mixes. And what this provides is water holding capacity as well as nutrition, both in container environments and out in the garden. And at the store, you might also see something called vermiculite. This is not commonly used in a lot of the potting mixes and seed starting mixes I see, but it is interchangeably used with the other component over here with perlite. It serves the same purpose. It just looks a little different. It's just fluffy. There's no real big difference. But that's what that is if you happen to see it. Now over here we have this oddball, if you want to call it, and that is topsoil. And this is an oddball because this is something when we're at the store, we're going to want to caution and not use this in our potted environments. And the reason why is because this type of material is very heavy and it relies on a larger soil ecosystem in order for it to be successful in growing plants for the entire growing season. If we had put this in just a containerized environment to grow some flowers or some vegetables in the middle of July or August, this material is going to get hard as a brick and not be optimal for trying to root our vegetables and flowers, and they might actually just wither and die. So when purchasing this material, I would stay away from using it in your containerized environment. But what this is good for is trying to amend some soils that you have out on the landscape in your garden, your vegetable garden, or your flower beds. So that's primarily what this is sold for. And this is really heavy stuff. You can tell when you see this because if you were to pick up a bag of this, and it only needs to be the size of a grocery sack, it can weigh as much as 50 pounds. So you can tell when you got some topsoil. And it's usually sold at like $2 or $3 a bag or something like that for about 40 or 50 pounds. But at the same time too, this is probably one of our most variable soil amendments sold at the store. And the reason why is because topsoil is naturally variable itself. Think of Dubuque County. If we go south of the airport, the soils that we see out there on the landscape in our cornfields and things like that are pretty light and yellow and clayey. And they're not something that we typically envision as purchasing as topsoil. But if we go to the western side of Dubuque County, this is that normally black friable material that we picture as topsoil. So when going to the store and purchasing topsoil, if you happen to see a broken bag there, check inside and see and make sure that this is the material that you are actually desiring to buy. So I hope you learned a little bit about the soil amendments that are commonly sold at the garden center and what their purposes are in using them in your garden applications. This is Ray Kruse, your Food Systems Program Coordinator and Master Gardener Coordinator. I wish you happy growing, everybody.